just say it, man. Don't make me ask 20 questions.
What is the point?
Get to the point.
Just say it already.
Welcome to the Podcram. Here are my highlights from Dr. Andrew Huberman's live Q&A at the Sydney Opera House 2024, February 17th.
There are a bunch of other things that can set sort of intrinsic rhythmicity of our auditory system that also adjust our frame rate. I think one of the reasons why 40 hertz tones can be valuable for doing cognitive work is that they tend to entrain certain circuits within the brain for doing the kinds of work that most people call work, kind of where you have to type things out, think logically, kind of if-then kind of analysis. Very different than, say, writing new sheet music or coming up with poetry where, here again, we can think back to the Rick Rubin thing or the, being stationary, right? Like the walrus sitting within a movement and the brain going forward. There's something about adjusting frame rate for capturing new ideas versus implementing ideas. Implementation of ideas tends to be carried out on higher frame rate type time perception, and now you can understand why our visual perception set about the distance of a laptop or phone would be good for that, or a conversation. Remember that whole thing of like looking at somebody's face and having a conversation, as opposed to looking off into the distance, walking, and allowing one's gaze to go panoramic. So hopefully now you're starting to sense some themes. So that's all I'll say about time perception now, but of course humans have throughout history and still now, frankly, also embarked on a lot of pharmacology, if we're honest, in order to try and adjust frame rate for sake of productivity. But caffeine will adjust frame rate in the predictable direction, but also things like alcohol and various drugs like cannabis in order to adjust frame rate. I'm certainly not suggesting you do those things. I'm not a cop. You do what you want. Just know what you're doing. The sauna is a great tool before sleep or warm shower or hot bath or warm bath for the following reason. The brain area that controls thermal regulation is the medial preoptic area, which operates like a thermostat. So if you warm the external portion of the body, the brain has to then cool down your core body temperature. It doesn't happen right away, but it happens as you get out of the sauna and maybe you take a warmish shower or a cool shower. So what ends up happening is that you warmed up, which allows you to cool down internally, and then you're able to fall asleep and stay more deeply asleep. That's probably what's improving your sleep. In fact, a kind of mantra that I learned from the great Matt Walker, who wrote the great book, Why We Sleep. And by the way, we have a sleep series with the mighty Matt Walker, who recorded 6 episodes, every aspect of sleep you can imagine. He says, you need to warm up to cool down to go to sleep. Stay cool to stay asleep. Warm up to wake up. So that's what's happening when you get in the sauna. Now, when you get into the cold plunge, you're cold, but guess what? Same thing. The surface of your body is cooler. Those thermoreceptors transmit information to the medial preoptic area of your body, and your core body temperature eventually goes up, provided you don't stay in there and get hypothermic, of course.
Thanks for listening to this installment of The Podcram. I hope it contains something useful for you. If you enjoy these selections and are curious about the curator's own thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Psychic Lube, where I share concise concepts meant to grease the intellectual gears and help get your creative juices flowing. Each episode is an ongoing collaborative project that welcomes listeners to expand or rebut its points by email or comment, the most interesting of which get incorporated through periodic re-recordings. As always, if you're intrigued by today's content, I encourage you to go listen to the full podcast in its original form directly from its creators so that their sponsors keep paying them to make stuff for us and nobody feels compelled to sue me for copyright infringement. Now, get off your phone and go do smart stuff. Have a productive day.